David Rankin-Hunt, Protocol Advisor on the Crown. I started off, I did a short service commission in the Scots Guards, and then 38 years in the Reserves, or the TA, ending up as Honorary Colonel of the London Scottish. And I think that combined with my 33 years in the Royal Household somehow prepared me for the sort of questions and challenges facing me as an advisor on the Crown. Well, I think it does. I think a lot of research was done into the subject, and between the research department and my own input, I think that we accurately reflect what goes on. You know, anyone who's been in the services, you see something on television, and if they've got it wrong, it immediately destroys the credibility of that television program. So the Crown were very keen to get all that sort of detail right. God, there were lots of little things. You had to ensure that they didn't look like a sack of potatoes in uniform, that they looked the part. You know, the Sam Brand was the right way around, that the medal ribbons were in the right order, and that they had some sort of military bearing. And there were, well, the one that did arise quite early on was some chap saluting without a hat on, which, of course, as we know, doesn't happen in the British services. There were other occasions when the royal family were heading downstairs at Christmas to have a drink with the Queen, and the Queen raised her glass, they all had champagne, and suddenly said, "Cheers." And I stepped in and said, "Well, actually, the Queen doesn't say cheers." And the director looked at me as if I was completely mad and said, "Well, what would she say?" And I said, "Well, she wouldn't say anything. They just raise their glasses and that's it." So there were lots of little things like that. Yes, I've said before that there were occasions on set when Claire walked into the room and was in a particular scene, and I almost had to pinch myself that it wasn't the Queen, because when she's standing there with the diadem on and the garter broad ribboned and the star and surrounded by footmen and so on, you know, it really is very atmospheric. So I think she has done a tremendous job in getting the detail right, the mannerisms and so on. I think there's always rivalry between the services and you know, between the Navy and the Army and the RAF, but I'd like to think that it's all good-natured banter, yes, and that's certainly true in the palace. There are quite a lot of ex-guardsmen, or there were in the past, and I think yeah, there's a lot of banter about that sort of thing. Yeah. I think the coronation, obviously I wasn't around in the 1953 coronation, but it was incredibly moving. Seeing them filming that in Elstree, it was incredibly moving, having all the different people there in their dresses and uniforms and so on. It was really very impressive. Well, what I said about that was that Churchill was such an exceptional person. He was a very much revered man, very venerable, and I think whilst most people wouldn't necessarily kiss the Queen's hand, I'm sure that Churchill did so. You know, the Queen's father was very fond of him, and I think he probably got away with certain liberties that others wouldn't. It would be nice, but I just don't know.